Hey everyone, and welcome to a bit of a discussion video where we're going to be talking a bit about the latest dev workshop that talks about damage 2.5 and how impact, puncture and slash's procs are going to work. Now, while I've actually been working on this video, Steve's announced that the IPS changes are not going to be coming that soon, and as such Khora has been delayed as well because she's very heavily based on the IPS. I do still want to talk about this though and give my thoughts on the proposed changes they came out with and potentially what I would like to see instead. Now let's start this off by saying, let's be real, right now the only proc that anybody cares about is Slash. Ignores shields, ignores armor, indefinitely stacks to give insane amount of procs. The power of Slash has been the base of many min-maxes builds for years, myself included, because let's be real, when you combine that with a viral proc to halve enemies' health, that is one heck of a combo and is going to be way more desirable than currently a short stagger from impact or a rather pathetic 35% damage reduction that Puncture gives you. A rebalance between the physical procs has been needed for quite some time. And a couple of days ago, a dev workshop came out talking about them. And I wanted to do this video a little bit discussing the changes, give my feedback on them, as well as bringing up some concerns that my stream chat had as well. So on the face of things, bringing the three procs more into line with each other is a good idea. Having only one proc type completely dominating the field like Slash does right now is not good for the game. But what are they actually changing and how is it going to affect what's going on with the procs? But the first important thing to note is how they're going to work out the damage output of the status proc, and at this point that's going to literally only affect Slash, and that's going to be by the amount of Slash that's on the weapon, not based on the total damage output of the weapon. Well, what does this mean? Basically, right now, a Slash proc is based on the damage of the entire weapon. Let's say a weapon's got 1000 damage, 700 of that is Slash, rest is 50-50 impact and Slash. As it stands, the Slash proc works off that 1000 total damage. In the new system, it would take only that 700 Slash into account, meaning that Slash proc damage is actually going to be reduced in basically every single case, plus be way less effective on weapons that aren't massively Slash based. I don't want to come out and straight up throw the word nerf around, but it is definitely going to hit Slash. It's going to hit its effectiveness as the endgame proc so hard. And it's going to bring weapons like the Tigris Prime down a little bit, which, while it doesn't rely completely on its Slash procs, those procs are going to tick quite a lot less than it does right now. Other than just that damage reduction though, Slash procs are going to work in exactly the same way, infinitely stacking, armor and shield ignoring, finisher damage. It's just that the procs would do less damage than they do actually proc. Honestly, I don't necessarily think that reducing the effectiveness of Slash is the way forward, but the problem is the description of how it all works really left a lot of unanswered questions about how Slash would work on certain things. For example, how straight elemental weapons like the Lucera would interact with the guaranteed Slash proc into Filing Snapdragon. Would that do no damage whatsoever? I mean, it's still going to work for the purpose of condition overload, but is that Slash proc going to do no damage? How about straight elemental weapons like the Amprex? Would that proc Slash doing 0 damage using Hunter Munitions, for example? Combo that a lot of people are enjoying right now. A lot more detail on these really needed to be implemented to see how it's going to work in practice. The damage reduction, honestly, could be worked around if that's what they wanted to do, but if a lot of options that are currently viable get closed off, then that's where the problems really start. Now, to be honest, Impact is the one that is down for the biggest change in the new system. A sort of stacking tiered system is where the procs will upgrade. Now, the first proc would be a short stagger, interrupting the enemy from firing, for example. The second is where the enemy would stumble, and then the third would cause the enemy to ragdoll away. Let's put it this way, I absolutely hate that idea. The idea of a stagger or a stumble is something I can understand. It's thematically relevant and not too much of a problem. But that ragdoll, it's unlikely to be the next Tenno space program though, and more likely to be, causing the enemy to drop to the floor in a heap. It's going to make follow-up shots difficult with any weapon that actually needs to make follow-up shots. The effectiveness of the proc is explained in the article as being based on the amount of damage caused by the proc. So weapons like the Volkar Wraith, huge damage and good status. If that procs, the likelihood is the enemy's going to drop to the floor, ragdolling, and that makes an accurate follow-up shot, like a headshot, almost impossible. But the thing is, that's not the only problem. If you upgrade procs using fast fire rate impact weapons, for example, maybe something like the Gorgon series, let's say, then you're going to end up causing that ragdoll pretty quickly, and hitting their head to proc mods such as Argon Scope is going to be almost impossible, let alone arcanes that rely on headshots. I don't mind the stagger or the stumble personally. They feel thematically appropriate, like they fit the theme of impact. However, instead of ragdoll, I would much prefer the unit to be frozen in place, stunned by the impact of the round, potentially opening enemies up to finishers, and that could allow for synergy between impact procs and melee weapons to give it a different edge over slash, and allow for some very good scaling, as well as, you know, potential use of something like covert lethality on single targets that you've opened up with the impact procs. Now, I know the opening up to finishes doesn't really help in the case of sniper rifles, but since snipers are support weapons to pick off big targets, you could open up enemies to finishes using the rifle, and then either use that stun to hit the follow-up shot, or your teammate could use the fact that they're open to finishers to do the finishing blow for you, giving both team support and scaling. I think that honestly this would be a much better option than the ragdoll. And so on to Puncture, by far the weakest of the procs now, and even in the new system, it would still be the weakest, giving anything from 10 to 75% damage reduction depending on the damage dealt when the proc hits. Reprocking will reset the timer on the damage reduction, and then upgrade the reduction depending on the new damage dealt. Honestly, this is one of the worst bonuses out of the three by a long way. It's completely useless at lower level because of the amount of damage the enemies actually do, and then it scales badly because of the insane amount of damage enemies do at high level. Realistically, it's not that helpful whatsoever. Honestly, I would rather see a similar sort of system to Impact with that sort of 3-tiered system. First one being an 80% damage reduction on the target on the first proc. The second proc being something like a 50% reduction in the damage reduction from armor to represent rounds starting to puncture through the armor, and allow potentially a combination with Corrosive, you know, Corrosive bringing armor down, doing more damage, and then the puncture is also stripping through that armor and doing more damage as well. Could be a little bit of good synergy there. Or even allowing 50% of damage to punch through shields and apply half damage straight to health rather than all of the damage to shields. And then the third tier is something I've seen talked about before, which is a Banshee style weak spot appearing on enemies to represent the armor or shields providing no protection at all, and then you dealing more damage on those specific spots. While this doesn't give much of a scaling option like the Impact or Slash procs does, it does give another option for dealing with either armor or shield, and it gives it a little bit of a niche. Shield is something that often gets forgotten when discussing things like this, things like the procs, and having something to deal with that could be kind of cool, kind of interesting. And the way I suggested these procs gives it a little bit of a nod back to Damage 1.0, where Puncture used to be Armor Ignore. Honestly though, I'm glad they delayed the IPS changes. All they would have done is reduce the effectiveness of Slash, make Impact annoying to use, and not solve the uselessness of Puncture. These are only my suggestions for ideas to change the way the procs work. I would love to hear your suggestions in the comments below. I just hope when they come out with these things in the future, like honestly delaying it to take longer to make sure this change is done for the better is absolutely the best thing in this case. IPS is something that needs to be done very, very carefully because the damage system is such a fundamental part of the game, and which is why I still want to do this video and provide feedback on the original proposed changes. I think next time the dev workshop comes out on this, we need very specific examples, how the elemental mods are going to work, not elemental, the elemental weapons are going to work with things like guaranteed procs in stances, things like the Amprex on hunter munitions, even some of the abilities that use things like slash procs or piercing roar of Rhino, like how those are going to work. I think we need some more specific feedback in terms of what they're going to do, so we can actually know and we can see what's actually going to happen. I want to hear your feedback in the comments below, your ideas, your thoughts on what they propose to begin with. I am going to be reading every single comment, and I'm providing feedback to DE based on what you're saying. I'm really looking forward to reading your comments. I'm going to have videos on the new content that's going to be coming this week as soon as it comes out. However, for now, many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.